All right, I'm gonna do a quick color match on her wrap here. First, I'm going to shape her just a little bit, and then I'm gonna color her wrap so that it goes with the background a little bit better. So when you have a situation like this where you don't want to buy a wrap of every color, but you like the texture of it, you can always color change. So I'm gonna go into Liquify and just do a little bit of work here, moving her wrap around so that when I do the color change, it is along those same lines and I don't have to, I can tweak it if I need to. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of body shaping. I'm using my warp tool and just kind of working around the edges, getting things a little bit more even. And a little bit more symmetrical. Somewhere like that. I don't want it to be absolutely perfect, but a little bit closer. All right, so there's our before, there's our after, and now I'm gonna do my color change. There's a couple different ways that you can do a color change. We're gonna go down here and we're gonna go to select subject. And then we're gonna quickly take her, oops, missed a spot. There we go. Just use the lasso tool to do that. And then I'm gonna add a new color layer. And we've got our colors selected, so somewhere in this like mauvey, purpley tones, depending on if you want it a little bit more on the brown or more on the magenta, or if you want to match this pillow. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to come to my blend mode and I'm going to change it to color. And as you can see, it made it pretty pink. And I can adjust that by double clicking and then just coming in here. I can move this dot if I wanted it to be less saturated. I would move it towards the left, towards this white gray scale here. If I want it to be more saturated, I'd go to the right. And so I think I want it to be more like a light purpley color, somewhere in there. So I'm just gonna click OK, and now we're a lot closer. But as you can see, I've got some on my cheek here, and I'm also missing part of the wrap here. So I want to adjust my mask. Right now it looks like this. One thing that you can do that really helps is just to blur your lines. So while I'm on my mask, I am going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and just get that edge nice and soft. So somewhere in the 50 range is gonna be quite a lot, but it's gonna give you nice edges here, especially because this wrap is fuzzy. It's gonna give you a little bit better result. So I'm gonna just blur that to 50. And now you can see that where we were before, we had that little bit of blue showing. Now with that blur, it's taken a lot of that blue edge away. So we can just go around the outside here and make sure it's looking good. And then I want to add just a little bit more up here so that it goes fully onto that wrap. Because I'm doing a color that's so close to the background color, it's really forgiving. So that's what I always like to do, is more of a monotone setup. I'm not going so far with it, and it really can quickly be done. And then on her cheek here, I'm just gonna hit the X key. So I'm on my black. I'm gonna get 100% opacity by hitting the 0 key. And then I'm just gonna paint out around her cheek and her chin where I've got a little bit coming down onto it. I can toggle back and forth if there's any areas like this where I need to make my brush a little bit smaller and get in closer. Maybe around her ear here. And there we go. Okay, so now we've got it. It's shifted to that purple tone. And then what I like to do is grab my mask again. I'm just hitting Command and clicking on that mask to reselect it. And then I'm going to add a curve. And so with my curve, I just want to darken it down a little bit, giving it a little bit more dimension on this side. And then I'm going to brighten it up so that I've got a little bit more contrast. And it will also bring in a little bit more color so that we've got some more changes. So there's before, there's after. It's just starting to look a little bit more natural because this side is a little bit darker. Before, after, it's looking much better. Now, can you see, as I can, that around here we've still got a little blue on her face? That's because the blue wrap, it's not that we haven't selected enough, is that the blue wrap has given her skin just a little bit of a reflection. So we want to take that reflection out and get her skin all the same color. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to my solid color layer again. I'm going to click OK, turn it off, double click, and choose a skin tone somewhere in there. In your forehead usually. I'm going to turn it back on, change it to color, invert, brush tool. I'm just at 20% here. I'm just going to lightly paint her chin and those areas that had that little bit of a blue cast. And if you go too far anywhere, as I did over here, I'm just going to paint it back out with a little black. Can you see that difference? Just really, really subtle, but it takes that blue out. And then I can see over here that we've got just a little teeny bit that we still need to be purple. Yep, if you double check your mask by going to the quick select key, hitting the backslash, you can see where you've maybe missed a little bit. And so I'm just gonna go back to that mask and I'm gonna paint a little bit more with white right underneath her chin here, making sure that those edges get all the blue out and we're really going to purple. So there's our before, there's our after. We've taken that sting out. We've got an all purple mask. And then we can see that it looks much more appropriate for this background. Okay, so let's say you got it to this point and your client said, well, actually I wanted it to be a little bit more pink. You can always come in and double click this solid color layer, choose a new tone, come in here and get maybe that little bit more pink. Before, after. Then if you needed to make it even darker, you can come back to this curves layer, pull out that middle point, just drop it down a little bit further in those highlights, darkening it down to get closer to that deeper color that your client is hoping for. Somewhere in that range. Before and after. Now, can you see that line down here? Because we've gone from a very light blue to a much darker color now, we need to do a little bit more finessing of our mask. So sometimes the mask hides super well because you're not going very far, and sometimes when you go really far with it, like we have here, it just needs a little bit more help. So one of my favorite tricks is to shift this line over. We're going to grab the whole line like that. We're going to feather it first, pretty small, like 5 is plenty. We just want to make sure that this is soft and this is soft down here. And then if you look at your mask, do you see how we're going black to white with this transition zone? So what we want to do is we want to shift the transition zone further to the right, making it come into those black areas. So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to go Command L to bring up my levels. This is black, this is white. I want to shift those gray tones towards blacks. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to shift that edge over. I'm going to do the same with my whites. I'm shifting it over. Did you see how that went? Now that line is going away more. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time, except I'm going to go in this mode. So I'm going to go Command L. I'm going to shift my grays towards my blacks, and it's going to move that line out to the left. If I go all the way, it's going to be really harsh. If I come somewhere in here, we're going to be a little bit happier. And then if we move our whites, we're going to end up with more of that transition zone again. So now, when we go back, we can see that that line has shifted from there to there. And it's giving us a much more natural shadow area down here because it's putting more shadow where it should be if this were actually a darker wrap. So that's one way that I like to adjust. Now, something to keep in mind is if you didn't do a good job like I just didn't on her cheek, you might see a little bit of it, so you won't come in here with just your black brush and paint it out so that it's not going crazy on you. And then if you need to anywhere, you can just come in here with a white brush and just lightly paint any other areas that are still not quite dark enough or don't have enough of that mask hitting them. So you can kind of come down here and blend it in a little bit better. Okay, so there's where we started, there's where we ended, and you can do as many of those as you need to. If you look at this and you're like, well, it's close, but it's just a little bit too much, rather than trying to go back into your curve and adjust it again, just go to your opacity and just drop that down just a little bit. So you've got a little bit less aggressive curve on it, and you're still darkening it down so that she looks like she goes with it. All right, let's move on to this one. Same idea. This is just a slightly darker blue wrap. So I'm gonna go to my hue saturation layer. I'm gonna go to my blues, and I'm gonna click around and see what we can do with the hue saturation layer this time. Now, because there's nothing else blue in here, it does a really good job of just selecting that layer. You can double click some more to make sure you're getting all the little bits of blue, and it's providing that range that it's working in. So nothing is happening on her skin, nothing's happening on the background, it's only happening to this wrap, which is wonderful. So I'm gonna drop it down, and I'm gonna go towards the purple, so I'm gonna move to the right. If you look at this little graph, you can see if I'm in this blue range, I wanna move it towards the purples, I'm gonna go to the right. So I'm gonna move this way, kind of get in that zone. I'm gonna pull some saturation out, go a little bit further with it, make it a little bit darker, a little bit lighter on the saturation. I wanna get it just about the same sort of shade. Maybe that kind of tan taupey color that's in here. So you can kind of play with what looks right to your eye and how you want it to look. And I think I actually do like it a little bit more matchy-matchy with the background, so I think I will go a little bit more maroon, kind of like that. Okay, so there's before, there's after. One quick little hue saturation layer without any masking at all. That's the beauty of using a mask, or using a color like that blue where you don't have anything else in that range at all. And then if you needed to, you wanted to make any kind of little adjustments to those edges, you could certainly just add a solid color layer, turn it off, double click, and maybe get, you know, like that, like warmer maroony color. Go to color as your blend mode. And I can already tell it's going to be too saturated, so I'm going to come in here and get more of that eggplant color instead. Okay, and then I'm going to invert my mask, Command I, and paint on my background here. On any of these areas where I want to give it a little bit more life. Blend it a little bit more. You can see just the tiniest bit of blue right along the edges, and that would drive me crazy. So I like to just do a quick little, very fast, kind of messy mask on some of these areas. There's before, there's after. You could like almost can't even see it unless you zoom in, and then you can see just that tiny bit of line that we have now taken out by using that. And if you see our mask, it just looks like this, kind of crazy, but we don't need to actually make any real masks. It is just super fast and great for doing those quick color changes just to make you have a full monochrome background. One final thing I want to show you with these color changes is if you have a situation like this where this blue wrap is the same one we've used here on the floor and you want to steal that color, you can take these layers that you've used, select them both by holding Shift, drag them over to your other layer, and then I'm going to just go ahead and change this to all black again, and then zoom in, and you can see that it almost got it correct. It got a little bit too aggressive back here, but we can fix that with our layer here. Just lightly painting in that color, taking out that like really aggressive purple that it just gave us, and matching it nicely to the purple that she's wearing, as well as the purple of the bucket. We can even paint here along the edges of the bucket, and then we don't even really have to do much at all because we already did a lot of the work in this one. So there we go. Obviously we need to take out my assistant's hands, and when I did that it made her jeans go, but that's okay because we're going to take all that out.